23 years and well over 20 games supported on 8 different consoles, PC, and mobile gaming, the Final Fantasy series has always enjoyed undeniable popularity among the video gaming community since its initial release in 1987. Although the quality of graphics and audio have evolved drastically over the last couple of decades, certain features remain consistent from game to game. Fans of the series will be quick to point out the expansive and beautifully crafted worlds, heartfelt and engaging characters, and the complex, sometimes over-the-top storylines. But the heart and soul of each Final Fantasy game is its music. Nobuo Uematsu was working at a music rental store in 1985 when he was approached by Square to provide the soundtrack for some games they were developing. Uematsu was a self-taught musician, having only started playing piano at age 11. He did not anticipate this becoming a full-time career. Since then, he has worked directly on all the Final Fantasy titles up through and including 10, and collaborated on several of the more recent installments. He has sometimes been referred to as the Beethoven of video game music. This is an apt comparison, given his common use of motifs as compositional tools. A motif is a short melodic, rhythmic, or harmonic pattern that is expanded and manipulated to create larger sections of music. One of the most familiar motifs in classical music would be this 4-note pattern at the opening of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. This motif appears in different forms throughout all the movements of the symphony, creating a cohesive thread that ties all the musical material together. Uematsu uses similar techniques in his works. The themes for each character are very often melodically driven, and these melodies consist of smaller motifs that appear in different forms. For example, the main theme of Final Fantasy VI is built off of a 3-note motif, which is then extended, transposed, and inverted to create the rest of the theme. YouTuber 8-Bit Music Theory has a wonderful video about this theme, and I encourage you to go check that out. Final Fantasy VI was very popular, and one of Uematsu's favorite scores to work on. However, in terms of cold, hard sales, it can't hold a candle to the most highly praised game in the series, Final Fantasy VII. Within 3 days of its release in 1997, Final Fantasy VII had sold over 2 million copies. To date, it has sold over 10 million copies worldwide. Its immediate success can be attributed to the PlayStation platform, which allowed for fully 3D character models, pre-rendered environments, and 3 times more sound channels for audio than the Super Nintendo allowed. Its lasting popularity in culture can be seen clearly in the numerous spin-off games, movies, and the extraordinary hype surrounding the 2020 remake. Uematsu's approach to the soundtrack was more akin to a film score, and he opted for music that reflected the mood of the scenes rather than strong, game-defining melodies. Nevertheless, certain themes from Final Fantasy VII have become ingrained in our culture, such as Aerith's theme. Sweet and sad at the same time, this music perfectly describes the character from the moment she appears on screen. We'll talk about how the music reflects Aerith's history and personality, but first, let's look at how her theme is constructed. Like the main theme in Final Fantasy VI, it's created using a 3-note motif. The opening 3 notes outline an ascending tonic arpeggio in the key of D major. Next, these 3 notes reverse direction, descending through a minor 5 arpeggio. And we'll talk about the significance of this chord in a little bit. The opening arpeggio returns and is extended through the end of the phrase. The second phrase is similar, but ends with the 3 notes descending in steps. The number 3 actually holds more significance than simply the number of notes in the motif. Notice how the arpeggio first goes up, down, and then is extended, giving us 3 examples of the motif in each phrase. This setting of 3 notes in 3 ways makes up the first section of the theme, which comprises, you guessed it, 3 sections. The second section takes the initial rising motif, but condenses it from skips down to steps. Over the course of, again, 3 iterations, these ascending steps fill in an octave. The next phrase switches direction, arpeggiating down, again 3 times. After each descending arpeggio, another voice answers with its own 3-note motif, but this time in augmentation, meaning the note values are longer. The second section ends with one more ascending motif, and the final section is characterized by an extended version of the stepwise pattern. The first time it descends to scale degree 3, the second time it jumps up to scale degree 3 in the upper octave, and the final time it descends to scale degree 2 before ultimately making its way to scale degree 1 with the same pattern that ends the first section. Harmonically, the theme opens in D major, and as we saw earlier, the opening motif arpeggiates this chord. It would have worked perfectly well to harmonize the arpeggio with the tonic chord. But Uematsu adds a 9th, which creates a very distinctive and evocative color. Whereas a plain major chord feels secure and cheerful, the added 9th gives it a slightly wistful feeling, or perhaps evokes the feeling of innocent wonder. The second chord, remember, is a minor 5 chord. This is noteworthy because it's an example of non-functional harmony. In functional harmony, each chord supports a specific function, as the name implies. The 5 chord, or dominant, serves to support the leading tone, which pulls the harmony back to tonic. A minor 5 chord, on the other hand, lacks the leading tone, and so does not support any particular function. As a result, this chord creates a feeling of being a bit lost. We know where we should go, but there's no real incentive or drive to get there. These chords repeat throughout the first 2 phrases. When we near the cadence of the second phrase, we do so by moving from the minor 5, A minor, through flat 6, B flat major, to minor 4, G minor, before returning to D major. Now hold on, because we're in D major, right? A happy key? These 3 chords support the key signature of D minor, and temporarily make us forget that we started out in a major key. Or perhaps raises the question, were we actually ever in a major key? The second section sticks to the original key signature, but similarly avoids feeling too tied to the major mode. We move from B minor to F sharp minor, and then to G major to end at D major again. The next phrase, though, alternates only between F sharp minor and G major. By this point, we're used to hearing G major move straight to D major, so this back and forth builds tension and anticipation throughout the second section. The third section finally provides the D major we've been waiting for. And the third instance of the motif ends on an A major chord. Finally, a functional dominant harmony to take us home and solidify the key of D major. But wait, because the 5 chord moves deceptively to 4, back to G major, and we arrive home by way of the cadentially rare and very weak 2 chord. Each of these previous cadences moves from G to D, 4 to 1. This type of cadence is called a plagal cadence, and is considered a much weaker type of ending than a typical 5-1 progression we often hear in music. This is due to the absence of the leading tone, which again is what makes the 5 chord functionally related to 1. The plagal cadence lacks strong direction to 1, and so it never really feels final. It's like we've arrived at home, but aren't quite ready to commit to taking our jacket and shoes off yet. So what does all this have to do with Aerith? Well, without giving too much of the story away, there are certain things we learn about Aerith that are demonstrated through the music. We know that she's cheerful, optimistic, and encouraging. This is captured with the ascending major arpeggio that starts off the theme. However, we learn that she also represses deep feelings of sadness and loneliness, and that can be heard by the use of the minor 5 chord, which again makes us feel a little bit lost and directionless. We also learn that she has an important role to play, but she is reluctant to accept it and has lived her whole life avoiding that responsibility. This characteristic of avoiding the necessary tasks so that nothing has to end is reflected by the use of a weak plagal cadence at the end of each phrase. All these musical components taken together describe the character of Aerith. From the moment she appeared in 1997, Aerith captured the hearts of Final Fantasy fans, and her story is compelling to say the least. Her theme has likewise stayed in the hearts of the fanbase, even helping the series earn a position in the top 300 on Classic FM's Hall of Fame 7 years straight. The enduring nature of the theme can be ascribed to how perfectly Nobuo Uematsu captures her character in his music, and tells the listener who Aerith is long before the game actually reveals anything. I hope that this video helped you understand what it is about Aerith's theme that defines her character, and why fans of Final Fantasy VII will always feel certain strong emotions when they hear this music. Do you have another favorite Final Fantasy character, or is there another theme that always sticks in your head? Leave a comment below about which character's theme you'd like to hear more about. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll click the like button and subscribe for more content like this, and I will see you in the next video.